I received a story just recently from a pastor friend of mine. He said he knew a doctor growing up. And this doctor, or this friend of his, was going to become a doctor. He was in a family of doctors. Everybody's a doctor. His uncle's a doctor, dad's a doctor, mom's a doctor. And so what was he going to become? A doctor. And so he's hanging out with doctors his whole life. He strived very hard to become a doctor. He got straight A's in school. He went to the best medical school. He got straight A's there. He passed everything with flying colors. He got a job and began hanging out with other doctors. But the funny thing was, true story about this doctor is he started to experience all the benefits of being a doctor, hanging out with doctors. He had the best golf courses, the best car, the best country clubs. Eventually, he became the mayor of the city. True story. He never ever saw one patient. Not one patient. After all that work, all the schooling, all the hanging out with doctors, imagine that. Never ever used that knowledge to heal even one person. That's the Pharisees. That's the scribes. That's the religious people. That's many of us. Where we sit here and we've been in church and in the schools, and they were in church and in the schools, and they were in the elite club, their own court, if you will, and they're following Jesus around. And these guys have never healed anybody. See, they were all about rules. These guys were all about the rules. They had an elite club based on rules. In fact, the Pharisees would throw dinner parties, and no one except for Pharisees were invited to the dinner party so that they wouldn't, by chance, touch somebody else and become unclean. Only Pharisees hung out with Pharisees. They had an elite club, and it was all based on if you follow the rules, you're in the club. Does this all sound familiar? If you follow the rules, you're in the club. You see, they thought they had this view of sin, a preventative view of sin. They tried to prevent people from sinning. And if you could prevent people from sinning, then they could be in the club. They could have a relationship with God. Here's the sad thing about rules. They can never heal anyone. Even if you follow all the rules, they can't heal you. They can't give you a right relationship with God. If you just follow them part-time or some of the time, they can't heal you. In fact, in Romans, we find out that the law, basically what it does, the scriptures, what they do is when you try to follow, for instance, the 10 Commandments, you hold that up, you see a mirror, you see how sinful you are. Thou shalt have only one God, only worship one God, only one God before you. That's it, don't worship any other gods. What time do the Eagles play tonight? Who's on the Eagles team? See, that's my point, is that we all know all that kind of stuff. Put in your own NFL football team. I'm not going to sit here and hit on sports, so men, pay attention, stay up. Insert your own God there. When you say, I have no other gods. Children, they're one of my gods. My kids, they're my little idols running around the house. Your house, your job, your career, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your college, your education. And so we look at that and we say, okay, I can follow that rule. You can't follow the rule. What the rule shows you is, wow, how many other gods do I have in my life? How many of these gods need to go? And we just go down the whole list. Thou shalt not murder. Well, I haven't done that. And Jesus tells us that if you even say, I hate you to somebody, or you fool, then you've murdered them in your heart. How many of you said that about your husband or your wife? About your kids? About the president, depending on your political affiliation. Jesus says you've murdered them. You've assassinated them. So the whole point is this, is that what the law could do, what the Pharisees didn't understand, is they don't make us holy. It shows us how unholy we are, how much in need of Jesus we actually are. Galatians chapter 3 tells us that the law, the rules that are in place, these rules that the Pharisees followed are like a schoolmaster that lead us to Jesus. So in other words, we open the Bible, we see the Bible, we don't say, okay, this is how good I have to be. We say, this is how bad I actually am, how sinful I am, and how good Jesus actually is, and how much I need Him to be in His court. And He invites us freely to be in that court. These religious guys were following Jesus because they wanted to make sure he followed the rules. That's all they were there for. They wanted to make sure that he followed the rules and that he didn't cause too many problems, because they approach sin from the preventative side, like I said before. Here's the thing. Jesus approaches sin from the recreative side, so they're butting heads, because the Pharisees are trying to prevent sin, and Jesus is saying, you've already sinned, let me recreate you. Jesus is saying, I know what you've done. He looks at Levi. I know what you've done. I know how much you've stolen. I know who you've robbed. I know how much people hate you. But I know what I'm going to do. And now Jesus looks at us and says, I know what you've done. Don't start freaking out all at once. He says, but look what I did. And this can all be yours by faith in me. Faith in Jesus.